Belief is not something that appears when everything is going well. It is not a spark that magically lights up when circumstances are perfect. Belief is a decision you make long before you see proof. It is choosing to trust your potential when the evidence around you looks average, slow, or even disappointing. Most people confuse belief with emotion. They think if they don't feel confident, they don't believe in themselves. But feelings change daily. One day you feel unstoppable. The next day you feel uncertain. If your belief depends on emotion, your progress will always be unstable. Decisions create stability. Emotions create fluctuation. When you decide to believe in yourself, you stop negotiating with doubt. Doubt may still whisper, but it no longer controls your actions. You move forward not because you feel fearless, but because you've committed to your future. A decision locks you in. A feeling fades away. Belief as a decision means you show up even when motivation is low. It means you work on your goals even when you're tired, even when results are slow, even when nobody is clapping. You don't wait to feel inspired. You act your way into inspiration. Every successful person you admire had moments where they didn't feel confident. They had setbacks, mistakes, and days of uncertainty. The difference is they decided their vision mattered more than their temporary emotions. That decision gave them the strength to continue when quitting felt easier. When belief becomes a decision, excuses lose power. You stop saying, I don't feel ready. You stop saying, maybe I'm not good enough. Instead, you say, I will grow into this. You understand that readiness is created through action, not waiting. A decision-based belief forces you to raise your standards. If you truly believe you are capable of more, you begin to act like it. You protect your time. You sharpen your skills. You invest in your growth. You don't sabotage your own progress because your decision demands alignment. Belief is also choosing how you interpret setbacks. When you treat belief as a feeling, failure destroys you. When you treat belief as a decision, failure teaches you. You don't see obstacles as proof that you should stop. You see them as training for who you are becoming. There will be mornings when self-doubt tries to take over. There will be moments when comparison makes you question your worth. In those moments, belief is not about waiting for confidence to return. It is about reaffirming your decision to continue despite the noise in your mind. Belief is the quiet commitment you make to yourself that no matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets, you will not turn against your own potential. It is the daily choice to act in alignment with the future you see, even when you cannot yet see the results. Silence is not the absence of power. It is the discipline of power under control. Loud people often mistake volume for strength, but real strength doesn't need constant expression. It understands timing. It understands positioning. It understands that not every thought needs to be shared and not every move needs to be announced. When you choose silence, you choose focus. You remove yourself from unnecessary debates, distractions, and energy drains. Instead of proving yourself in conversations, you prove yourself through preparation. Instead of defending your vision, you develop it. Silence becomes the shield that protects your concentration. Weakness reacts. Strategy observes. When you are silent, you gather information. You listen more than you speak. You study the room. You understand people's intentions, patterns, and motivations. While others are busy talking, you are learning. And knowledge always gives you an advantage. Silence also protects your goals. Not everyone deserves access to your dreams. Some people doubt by default. Others compete quietly. When you speak too soon, you expose fragile ideas to unnecessary criticism. But when you build quietly, you give your vision time to grow strong roots before facing the wind. There is a different level of confidence in someone who doesn't need to announce their progress. They don't post every plan. They don't argue about their potential. They move with certainty because they are secure internally. Silence becomes evidence of self-control, not insecurity. In moments of conflict, silence can be your greatest weapon. When others expect you to react emotionally, your calmness unsettles them. You conserve energy instead of wasting it. You choose composure over chaos. That restraint is not weakness, it is mastery over yourself. Silence also sharpens discipline. When you stop talking about what you're going to do, you feel the pressure to actually do it. Words can create a false sense of accomplishment. Silence removes that illusion. It forces you to measure progress by results instead of recognition. Growth often happens in hidden seasons. Just like foundations are built underground, your greatest development will happen where no one sees it, in quiet hours, in early mornings, in late nights. Silence gives you the space to build without performance. Strategic silence keeps your emotions from hijacking your future. It allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. It creates space between stimulus and response. In that space, wisdom is formed and better decisions are made. When you understand silence as a strategy, you stop craving attention and start commanding respect. You move deliberately. You speak with purpose when necessary. And you let your results create the noise that words never could. Discipline is stronger than validation because validation depends on other people and discipline depends on you. When you live for approval, your progress rises and falls with opinions. When you live by discipline, your progress is controlled by your standards, and standards don't fluctuate with applause. Validation feels good, but it is temporary. A compliment can boost you for a moment, but it cannot carry you through months of hard work. Discipline, on the other hand, shows up when the excitement fades. It keeps you working when no one is watching, when no one is praising, when no one even knows what you're building. Many people start strong because they receive attention in the beginning. Support pours in, encouragement surrounds them. But when the spotlight shifts and the noise dies down, so does their effort. That's because they were fueled by validation, not anchored in discipline. Discipline does not ask how you feel. It asks what needs to be done. It doesn't care whether the task is exciting or repetitive. It doesn't require recognition. It simply requires commitment. And commitment is what separates amateurs from professionals. When you depend on validation, you hesitate to take risks. You fear criticism. You avoid failure because it might damage your image. But discipline pushes you forward regardless of how it looks. It prioritizes growth over approval and progress over popularity. There will be days when nobody notices your effort, days when your work goes unseen, days when your results are small. Validation would make those days unbearable. Discipline makes them productive. It reminds you that consistency compounds even when applause is absent. Discipline builds self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your internal confidence. You begin to trust your own word. That trust is far more powerful than external praise because it cannot be taken away by criticism. Validation can create addiction. The more you receive, the more you crave. You begin to perform for attention instead of purpose. Discipline frees you from that cycle. It allows you to focus on the mission rather than the reaction. When you are disciplined, you don't need constant reassurance. You know what you are building. You know why you are building it. And that clarity keeps you steady when opinions shift or disappear entirely. In the long run, validation may encourage you, but discipline transforms you. One is a spark that fades quickly. The other is a system that produces results over time, whether anyone is clapping or not. Talking about success creates excitement, but execution creates results. Announcements feel productive because they give you attention, but attention is not achievement. You can declare your goals to the world and still remain in the same place. Progress only begins when action replaces words. It is easy to tell people what you are going to do. It is harder to wake up early and actually do it. It is easy to post about discipline. It is harder to stay consistent when no one is watching. Execution demands effort, while announcements only demand sound. When you constantly announce your plans, you release the pressure to perform. You get a small reward from the reaction of others, and that reward tricks your mind into feeling accomplished. But nothing has changed. The goal is still unfinished. The work is still undone. Execution is quiet. It doesn't seek approval before it moves. It doesn't wait for encouragement to begin. It simply works. While others are explaining their strategy, the executor is refining it. While others are debating possibilities, the executor is building proof. Real power comes from results, not promises. Anyone can promise transformation. Anyone can talk about ambition. But execution separates those who dream from those who deliver. Results create credibility that words never can. There is also strength in surprise. When you move in silence and focus on execution, your progress speaks unexpectedly. People see the finished product without hearing the endless talk beforehand. That kind of growth carries weight because it is backed by effort. Announcements often attract opinions. Opinions create doubt. Doubt slows momentum. Execution avoids that trap. When you are busy working, you have no time to defend your vision. You are too occupied turning it into reality. Execution builds momentum. Small completed tasks lead to larger completed tasks. Each action reinforces the next. Announcements do not build momentum, they build expectation. And expectation without action leads to disappointment. When you prioritize execution, you measure yourself by output, not by intention. You focus on daily habits instead of public declarations. You understand that consistency, even in small steps, compounds into significant change over time. In the end, people remember what you produce, not what you promise. They remember the finished project, the visible transformation, the tangible success. Words fade quickly, but executed actions leave a lasting impact. Growth requires hidden seasons because the most important development happens where no one can see it. Just like a seed buried beneath the soil, transformation begins in darkness. Before there is evidence above ground, there is effort below the surface. The invisible work is what makes the visible success possible. Most people want public victories without private preparation. They want recognition without refinement. But real growth demands time away from the spotlight. It demands quiet mornings, long nights, repetition, and patience when nothing seems to be changing. Hidden seasons test your commitment. When no one applauds you, when no one notices your effort, when results are slow, you discover whether your motivation is external or internal. If you can continue without recognition, your foundation becomes stronger than temporary praise. In these unseen moments, your character is shaped, discipline is developed, skills are sharpened, mistakes are made and corrected. You learn lessons in private that prepare you for responsibility in public. The hidden season is not punishment, it is preparation. There will be times when you feel overlooked, times when others seem to be advancing faster, times when comparison tempts you to rush your process. But rushing weakens roots, and anything without deep roots cannot withstand strong winds. Hidden growth also protects you. It allows you to make mistakes without an audience. It gives you space to experiment, to adjust, to fail safely. This quiet refinement builds confidence that is based on competence, not attention. Every strong structure begins with a foundation that no one admires. The concrete is poured, the groundwork is laid, the structure is supported beneath the surface. Without that unseen base, the visible building would collapse under pressure. During hidden seasons, patience becomes your greatest asset. You learn to trust progress that cannot yet be measured publicly. You learn to value small improvements. You begin to understand that consistency over time creates breakthroughs. The quiet phase also builds emotional resilience. When you grow without constant validation, you become less dependent on approval. You develop self-trust. You begin to measure success by internal standards rather than external applause. Eventually, the growth becomes visible. The skills sharpened in silence start producing results. The discipline built in private begins to show in public performance. But the strength people admire was formed long before they ever noticed it. Consistency creates quiet confidence because when you repeatedly keep promises to yourself, you build trust within. That trust does not need to be announced. It does not need validation. It grows silently every time you show up, even when you don't feel like it. Confidence that comes from hype is loud but fragile. It depends on mood, momentum, and outside encouragement. But confidence that comes from consistency is steady. It is built on proof. Proof that you can rely on yourself regardless of circumstances. Every day you follow through on a commitment, you reinforce your identity. You are no longer someone who tries. You become someone who does. That shift changes how you walk, how you speak, and how you think. It creates an internal certainty that cannot be shaken easily. Consistency removes the drama from success. Instead of chasing big bursts of motivation, you focus on small daily actions. You understand that repeating the right habits 30 days in a row is more powerful than one perfect day followed by a week of excuses. When you are consistent, you stop doubting your ability. You have evidence. You've done the work before. You've pushed through resistance before. You've completed tasks when it was inconvenient. That memory becomes fuel for future challenges. Quiet confidence doesn't need to compete. It doesn't need to prove. It doesn't need to boast. It knows its capability because it has lived it repeatedly. The person who trains every day does not argue about strength. They simply demonstrate it when necessary. Consistency also builds emotional stability. When your actions are steady, your self-image becomes steady. You no longer feel like a different person every week. You develop a predictable standard for yourself, and that predictability creates security. There will be moments when results seem slow, but consistency teaches patience. It reminds you that growth compounds. 5 focused hours per week become 20 hours per month. 20 hours per month become 240 hours per year. Small efforts repeated create undeniable progress. As consistency becomes part of your lifestyle, fear begins to shrink. You know you can handle challenges because you've trained yourself to persist. You've proven that you don't quit easily. That proof is stronger than temporary motivation. Over time, this steady discipline shapes how others perceive you, but more importantly, it shapes how you perceive yourself. You begin to carry yourself with calm assurance, knowing that your strength was not built overnight, but earned through repeated, deliberate action.